a physical representation of...
I think writing is like interchangeable with thinking.
All writing involves
words.
The writer's communicative goals.
The letters symbolize sounds.
We use writing for all kinds of things, right?
And when you put them together, they make words on the page.
It's how we communicate meaning to others and to ourselves.
Writing is a way of cleaning up my thinking, or disorganizing my thinking.
What does writing mean?
A big part of writing is like that you're trying to communicate a particular idea.
Practicing writing.
Writing always consists of some kind of typified social action.
If I'm gonna write in a way that is like haphazard.
You write something down with a pencil.
Maybe it'll break up some really comfortable pathways I have.
You can put them together in a meaningful way, and it depends a great amount on how you put them.
Every piece of writing we do has these kinds of considerations built into it, right?
Words.
There are different sort of linguistic considerations and tools.
Like dog bites man is different from man bites dog. So words and placement have meaning.
To me, writing as a social practice connotes collaboration.
It's like, it's good as a group thing or something.
Writing, drafting essays, drafting chapters of a book. I run all of my thoughts and all of my drafts by friends and family members.
Even if you're writing only to communicate your own thoughts to yourself.
Well, it allows you to put your input out there socially.
You do it in relation to your identity, which is constructed in relation to your community.
I understand it as like a way to act in a social world, right?
You do it in relation to your position and place in the world, the ways you conceive of yourself.
There's always an audience when you're writing.
I heard one author, she said, like, writing and speaking are really our only ways of enacting change, whereas like 500 years ago, or even further back than that, we maybe would have dealt with that via force.
Writing is communication, right? Like the whole point of writing, or not the whole point, I guess.
But today, we really just have our words to communicate to each other in a sociable or not sociable way.
Every writer's always essentially negotiating with the community that they're situated in.
To affect our worlds, whether it's like our family, or our city, or, you know, something larger than that. So.
I would argue that you yourself is an audience.
Whether that reader is the author or someone else.
But even still, I feel like
when they read that, they'll interpret it a particular way.
The person that's writing their journal, their audience is never themselves. There's always something else they're projecting out there.
That's two people connecting, right? Which is social. So like, even if that person is yourself, that's still a social act.
There are shared domains that include things like design spaces.
Writing poetry is different than writing emails.
Genres are defined by the communities of practice that enact them.
Because it's something that you use to communicate.
Is writing a social practice?
Yes.
One of the things I've come to understand most profoundly this semester.
I guess it depends what you mean by generate.
Writing generates new knowledge.
But if I write it out,
can I make some knowledge that wasn't there before?
I make associations that I wouldn't typically make within my head.
Synthesize it, as it were.
Synthesizing two pieces of knowledge into maybe like a single piece of new knowledge.
Then I could come up with new ideas.
Maybe.
The way I understood it was the act of writing itself produces new...
Was it there before? I just hadn't dug it out.
Heretofore unhad.
It seems like generate means ex nihilo.
Is that a word? Heretofore...
But is that generating or is that just revealing?
Non-existent knowledge.
Maybe not.
Even if it's just in the mind of the writer.
Okay, I'll say yes.
Maybe other people had the knowledge. They say nothing new under the sun. Nonetheless, that's a freaking superpower.
I absolutely believe text to be external. I think that, well, yes, it's a part of the person that put their thoughts on paper, it's so much more than that.
Text is an object that exists outside of oneself, and so you can think about it.
If you wrote it in a way, yeah, it could be a part of you. It's like medium.
Like an entity that's separate from me, and then it requires...
You expressing yourself in this, like...
think it takes
Ooh.
a certain kind of thinking about writing,
Yeah, I do feel like metacognition has a huge role.
choosing to think about writing in order to have that metacognition.
I'm reflecting, and witnessing the thoughts and the ideas that are going, bounce around.
Can cause you to think things you wouldn't have thought otherwise.
Reflection is also a key part of that, and that's where I think the transfer of knowledge happens.
Are there ways I can complicate this association?
Reflection involves recalling and reframing.
Can I challenge it and like, I don't know, make some sort of new connection? Like,
Am I thinking in new ways? Yes, I think I am.
Ecology makes me think of biology class in 5th grade where there's pictures of animals with yarn going from each animal to another.
I think ecology is a great word for it.
There
I think that's a pretty good metaphor. Like things are connected.
Maybe a better term is writing knitting. Knitting is a great metaphor for writing. Look,
Is it a confusing term, do you think?
this whole sweater that I'm making is
Not to me. I think it's a pretty straightforward metaphor. I get it.
a writing system. Each individual loop of yarn holds together to make the system as a whole. Oh, this is so good. Like, people who don't get writing ecology, they'll totally get the writing sweater. So all these things come together, all the things that go into writing, people's previous histories, the way they conceive of themselves as writers, the ways they access education and other resources. It all comes together to make the sweater of writing.
Write me like one of your French girls.
What were you just saying? Like,
Oh, just like,
the act of writing is...
just
Oh, the cookies are done again. We can end this interview now. Thanks for answering my questions. So, reading through Naming What We Know again. Good thing I bought that book a while ago. I came across that first threshold concept